Welcome to the Crop Chat. You're a team captain, now what? I'm Erin Lucanville, a community engagement manager based in Western Massachusetts. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Kevin McCoy. Kevin is a community engagement specialist based in Athens, Georgia, and he's going to share some best practices on the role of the team captain.
I think that's my cue, right, Erin?
That's your cue. And Emily, if you want to hide your webcam, you can too.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to have all of you here. Team captains. Okay, well, I can't say enough about the role you've taken on as team captains. You are definitely the spark of the Crop Hunger Walk. You are the MVP. In fact, you talk to anyone who's done this in a while, finding that enthusiastic, that passionate team captain is the key for every walk success. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all you're doing and your wonderful commitment to the mission of the Crop Hunger Walk. So in addition to, I'm not going to get into a lot of the nuts and bolts, you'll be covering those later, but in addition to promoting the walk with your group or your congregation, your faith group, and signing up walkers and encouraging them to fundraise, and in addition to all that, you're the one who has to be the connection to the overall walk and make sure that your walkers have all the information they need, all the nuts and bolts, things that are going on, like when and where to show up, or even if dogs are allowed to come along, or where to drop off the money, how to handle the money once you have it. So all of these things are the kinds of details that we've funneled through you for your team to have a successful participation in the walk. So it's a lot, and it's awesome. Thank you so much for taking on this role. Now, I'm going to show you just a few highlights of what I consider best practices, and I'm going to make this happen by sharing my screen and see if, okay. Erin or Heather, someone confirm that you're seeing my screen.
It's perfect, Kevin.
Ah, perfect. Wow, I rarely hear that term related to technology and me. Okay, so here we go. First thing is, what's your plan? Going back to promote the walk, how are you going to go about it? So a couple ideas. People set up displays in their sanctuary. Some of the walk team captains set up displays, and then every week they have an opportunity to talk about the walk and catch people going in and out of services in between Sunday school or something like that. For instance, you could keep a stack of the walker envelopes there to hand those out to people. Here, think about participating in the walk and joining us, or put some money in it and give it back to me, that kind of thing. Just all different ways, but every week being that presence there. And I do recommend that someone is there at the display, if that's the way you wanted to go, to encourage this, even finding, say, a couple youth to do it, because people love to talk to the youth when they're coming, and it makes it much more interactive, rather than just having a display or a bulletin board up that's kind of passive that people will just see without, and maybe not even notice sometimes. So set up something that every week is a contact point talking about the walk. Maybe 5 or 6 weeks out from the walk is a good time to be doing this. And other things are announcements for to your group, emails out to your group, find the list of people that participated last year, make sure they know about the event, all these kinds of things. But figuring out, what is the strategy, what is the plan? Secondly, consider a goal for your team, and you can always look back and see, well, what did we raise last year, and let's bump it up 10% or something like that. But setting a goal gives a psychological advantage to fundraising. It really does. I mean, just think about NPR and those fundraising drives they always have. I mean, they get up there and it's like, wow, we're so close, we're halfway there. We're that kind of encouraging. And then you get out to the last day of the walk. If you haven't met your goal, just make an announcement to your group, and I guarantee you'll have people just making sure you're over the goal line for that. There are a variety of of things that will show the impact of your gift. And maybe it's a $20 gift or $50 gift, $150 gift. There's some of them listed here on the screen, but you can get these from the resources page on the crophungerwalk.org website. And just maybe, you know, $20 is buying the gardening equipment you need for a family in Honduras to be able to give fresh vegetables to their family every year. So $20, and you want to make sure that 10 families are assisted. So there you go. You just keep using those price points as goals. Another great best practice is to spend a little time with our stories. Be able to tell these stories to your team, to your group when you're promoting the walk. And I've highlighted a few here that are kind of in the news at this point. We all know that there's a global food crisis in the world now. A number of the stories that we can share with them is that Church World Service and Crop Hunger Walk funds are helping to provide food to people who are facing extreme drought and food insecurity in Kenya, for instance. There's a program going on right now that's providing about 15,000 people with emergency food rations in the Tano River region of Kenya. And the Ukraine crisis has been in the news all the time. Well, Crop Hunger Walk funds and Church World Services work is helping to support these families who are trying to get out of the way, get their families out of harm, and get them to a safe place in Moldova, for instance. We have partners set up. About 100,000 of refugees have gone into Moldova, and we have partnerships set up to help those families access food banks, hot food distribution centers, refugee assistance centers, food pantries, but also getting emergency supplies, hygiene supplies, things that'll help them get through this crisis. In fact, there's also one program that's been set up particularly for children and people needing to do classwork and keep up with their studies, and for children to meet other children that are in the same circumstances. Crop Hunger Walk Funds, Church World Service work has been able to provide these portable classroom pods that are allowing us to have these types of responses. So all of these stories are in a place on our website. If you go to the cwsglobal.org website, and I believe they're going to put that information into the chat here at some point, and give you access to these stories that, in fact, when you go to this place that says Stories of Change, go to a link that says Stories of Change, it will list probably 100 stories of how your Crop Hunger Walk funds have been helping you to make a difference, in addition to some of these key stories that are out there right now. So tell some stories, inspire some folks, and help them to know the key role they're playing in helping families that are in crisis. Okay, so here's another thing I was hoping you'd think about, another best practices, walker and donor challenges. It can always be a lot of fun, finding different ways to challenge someone to raise more money and make little friendly competitions within a group or a church or a Sunday school teacher challenging their class, see who can raise the most money. What you have on your screen is actually from one of my walks a couple years ago, and it was the soccer coach of a girls' youth soccer team who challenged his team and said, you know, combined, if you can raise more money than me, you can spray paint my hair different colors on walk day. And that was a great challenge, and he lost. And I got these great pictures of the girls coming up and spraying his hair green and blue and red, along with his truck became green and blue and red. It was fun. They did this on walk day right before everybody walked. Everybody had a great time. And I'll mention that this is the first time this team ever participated, this group ever participated in a Crop Hunger Walk. And they raised $1,500 for this very first time doing it. So having fun challenges, finding fun ways of of engaging your team is always a great way to go. My final best practice is basically the idea of the online website. And every year, more and more folks have been increasing this. They sign up online. Of course, cash and checks are always wonderful to be received at Crop Hunger Walks too. But through the online fundraising, let me encourage you as team captains to always sign up your team online. That way, you can receive credit, debit card, PayPal donations to your team members and to the individual team members. It keeps it all totaled. And as a team captain, you won't have to deal with any of that money. It's all automatic. So here's in the right-hand corner, you see a quick example of the Charlotte Crop Hunger Walk. And that's what it would look like. And there's a button that says join or start a team. And as team captains, you would start a team. And then you tell all your walkers to join that team, and everybody will be listed. And if you look down below, you'll see the names of a particular team. This is St. Luke's Lutheran from Charlotte, North Carolina, and the team captain will be listed with a little star next to her name, and then all the team members will be signed up there as well. This would allow you to be able to have information going out from this little website, and everybody will have their own little fundraising page, and you'll be able to actually customize it. You can add pictures or statements and things like that. But going with the online fundraising is going to help tremendously with your fundraising efforts. And there's one special thing a couple years ago, we changed over to a new platform, which made it very easy to connect a Facebook fundraiser to this new website. In fact, it is amazingly simple. Sign up on the website first, get your team there, get your name there, and there will be a button that comes up and says, would you like to add a Facebook fundraiser? You click that button and suddenly you've got a Facebook fundraiser. And whatever you're raising through Facebook, people giving donations that spend a lot of time on Facebook, that money will just show up on this web page as part of the fundraising for the Crop Hunger Walk. So those are my favorite best practices. And we've got a great treat for you coming up with one of our veteran team captains, who is going to share with you some very personal experiences in her success. So Erin, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you. And if I do this right and hit the right buttons, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And do I also turn off my camera now?
Sure.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciated hearing some of your tips and best practices, learning that youth can be a great way to help promote and talk about the walk, and that setting goals can really provide a psychological advantage to the success of your fundraising. At this time, we want to have a poll before I introduce you to Emily, to just kind of get a sense for you with your role as team captain. So if we're going to launch that poll. So what do you find to be your biggest challenge as a team captain? So you can go ahead and start putting in your answers, whether that's participation, communication, coordination, fundraising, or if it's none of those, but something else that you find to be your biggest challenge as a team captain. So we'll just let a few more answers collect in. Thank you all for participating and letting us know. And then in just a minute, we'll close this and let you see what people are sharing. All right, so it looks like by quite a lot that participation is one of the biggest challenges that you're facing. Next with getting fundraising, and then communication and coordination. If you were one that typed in other, feel free in the question box to type what that other is so that we can know that and see ways we can help support you. So you can go ahead and hide the poll, Heather. And I just on questions, if you have questions for Kevin, we will take time for questions at the end. So feel free to just type those now. And if you have questions as Emily's speaking, go ahead and type those in, and then we will take the questions at the end. So now I'd like to introduce you to Emily Hutton Hughes. She is a team captain from St. Thomas Episcopal Church, and that is part of the Hamilton, New York Crop Hunger Walk. Emily has worked for 27 years as a Colgate University librarian in Hamilton before retiring in 2014. She is passionate about fighting hunger, very active in her church, and loves researching history, exploring nature, and singing. So thank you, Emily.
So thank you very much, Kevin and Aaron. Some really great tips there. Kevin has stolen a little bit of my thunder, but I hope that some of the things that I can share with you today will help increase the number of funds that you can bring in for the crop walk this year. I always believe strongly in sharing best practices around. We can all learn from each other. Are you seeing my screen now, my PowerPoint?
We are, but can you make it bigger?
Okay.
Do the presentation mode, slideshow mode.
Yes. There we go. Okay. So leading your CW team, a little bit of background about myself. You can see that I'm from a fairly small rural community in upstate New York. And we've been doing the crop walk for many years. I only joined the church about 5 years ago. And only for the last 3 years have I been team captain. So I like to emphasize what Kevin just said about setting up an online website on the crop walk website. We did that 3 years ago and actually doubled the amount of money that we had raised from the previous year just by doing that. When I initially joined or became team captain of the High Road Walkers, I was mostly focused on getting up the website, making 1 or 2 announcements, and then off we went. That's pretty much all I did. And I found out that really people needed much more encouragement, advice. People needed to feel part of a team. And so some of these things that I'm about to share with you will give you some ideas there. Dog in the team photo, instant success. We need to do a little bit more than that, right? But it does help to have a cute dog in your team. Anyway, essential roles of the team captain. We've sort of already covered this: preparation, communication, coordination, encouragement of individual fundraisers, and especially generating true passion. In my recent years as team captain, I have focused much more heavily, particularly on communication, encouragement of individual fundraiser, and getting the team excited about giving. Start early. Right now we're about 7 weeks from the launch of our particular crop walk in Hamilton, New York. This is a little bit earlier for us, but in a way it's good because we can catch people outside when they're mowing their lawn, walking their dog. If you're waiting to the last minute when the sleet is coming down, it's harder to catch your neighbors outside. Team website, as I mentioned before, absolutely essential for getting as much donations as you can. If we were just relying on cash and checks, I can guarantee that our numbers would be a great deal lower than they were last year. So please consider an online web page. A lot of people much prefer doing it that way because they get a receipt for their donation. Walkers appreciate it because there's not a lot of extra cash floating around, and what did I do with Mr. Smith's check, et cetera, et cetera. So think about a team web page. Give yourself a nice succinct name and off you go. Another idea for starting early: if you've been at this for a while, you know who a lot of your top fundraisers are, right? So meet with a small group of folks, Think about what you did last year. Is there a way to improve on that? Is there a way to, say, bring in more teenagers to help with your fundraising? As a small point, esprit de corps to build group spirit. Maybe have a particular type of T-shirt. Everybody wear blue. Possibly posters and that kind of thing. You can involve teenagers in that, and artistic types, and go from there. Oh yeah, the team photo right before the walk, and make sure there's 1 or 2 dogs in it. Whoops. Internal communication, again, can't have enough of that. Initially, when I just launched this by making, an announcement in our church bulletin, and I stood up in church and said something, and 1 month later, I can't tell you how many people were saying, "What? Crop walk? When is that again?" Keep telling people. Sometimes people need to hear it 3 times. Printed information, crucial, particularly for older folks. Email helps people save things, but as many different channels as you can get to. Kevin talked a lot about taking a look at the Crop Walk, or the Church World Services website, and I can't emphasize that enough, because when you're out there fundraising with your neighbors, and they have questions about, what is this Church World Services? I've never heard of them. You need to be able to speak with confidence about who they are, a little bit about their history. They've been going since 1946, helping people, and to relate some of those personal stories. The man who is been working with a fish hatchery in Africa, the Ukrainian refugees. Stories help people connect with the cause. Likewise, very important for you as team captain, not only to get people familiar with Church World Services, but also to emphasize the impact of the walk on the local food cupboards. A quarter of the proceeds go to the local food cupboards. And just as people need to know about who Church World Services is, it is your job to try to communicate to them what is happening locally in those food cupboards. How many families are being served? Has the local food cupboard director noticed a magnificent increase in the pandemic? Yes, she has. This kind of information makes the walk personal for people that you're approaching in the neighborhood. Finally, basic guidelines for walkers. I usually have something in print that talks about what you do with cash, checks, best practices for tracking donations, the importance of saying thank you if you know if there's a donation. So all of those things are essential for getting your team going. Coordination. Working closely with a lead organizer for your walk should be obvious, but sometimes it's a little hard to tell who that might be in your community, or maybe that person doesn't know who you are, so they can't add you to their email communication channel, for example. So introduce yourself as team captain to that local organizer and let them know that you're part of the cause. Yes, the web page does help in that regard, but personally introducing yourself is very helpful. One of the best practices I learned about last year on this very webinar was to try to get some donations up front from key donors, generous givers. If you've been keeping track of who has given you what over the past years, you know that there's certain people that might be willing to give upfront and early. If others in the congregation start seeing that number go up and up, Maybe they're likely also to make their donations early. Maybe they're willing to give a little bit more following people who have also given more. Taking advantage of local social media is kind of a no-brainer. A lot of us have access to Nextdoor, announce it through there, etc. You know what that's all about. One thing that we are hoping to do a little bit better this year is make a connection with our local college students, because they're not as aware as what's happening in the community, and I'd like to bring them on board early and see if we can raise a little bit more money than we did last year. This one is a biggie: encouragement and advice. This is so necessary. You know, I'm an introvert myself. I'm not big on public speaking. It is hard to go out and speak to people that you don't know very well. But I found that in terms of getting people to participate in your walk, what did we say in the last poll? 65% of people are team captains are struggling with participation. You might want to just, you know, make yourself available, give advice, pat people on the back. For the faint of heart, I'd say, you know, just approach 3 people. You know, you must have a couple friends. What about others in the family? What about your next door neighbor whom you share a garden with? Just start with that and see how it goes. And chances are that your initial success with people that you know very well will help build confidence and wallets may open to you. I do offer a sample letter to walkers in my congregation that they can use to hand out to their own contacts, their own potential donors. It's a Word document that they can tailor to their own personal needs, so they can say, you know, why am I particularly passionate about fighting hunger in my community? But it can also give some guidelines about, you know, basic information to communicate about CWS, the local food banks, etc. A lot of people have found that exceedingly helpful because they're too scared to get out there. But if you just have some basic advice, a sample letter, I think you'll find more people in your organization signing up to do this. Very important is also to keep people aware of your fundraising progress. And I really like that graphic that Kevin had of the thermometer, where you can, you know, show where we've gotten to today, because that keeps forever your fundraising project in the people's mind as they come into church. And particular key deadlines, like, you know, hey, our parish has raised its first $5,000. Let's keep going. This is great, people. That kind of thing. Just keep people informed. Finally, the mad dog moment. Last year, I found that we just seemed to hit a black hole, frankly, in early October. Maybe it was the time change, maybe it was the cold weather affecting us in the Northeast. But you know, folks were just losing energy. And I was still getting people who said, you know, when is that crop walk again? So I decided I had to do something radical. Mad Dog was my nickname in high school. I had good friends who knew that though I was quiet, I had my unexpected moments where I would go in radically different directions. And this was my Mad Dog moment. What I did was I got up in front of my congregation before the service. I stood up in the lectern and I essentially did a call and response, starting out with, do you realize that there are 801 million people in the world who are suffering from food security. This is intolerable. And then I turned to the minister and I said, how does this make you feel? And he said, really rough. And then I went down to, do you know that there are so many people in America who are struggling to put food on the table? You know, is this something that's acceptable? I seated the audience with friends of mine who were bold, who then started saying, no, no. And so we built it up, went down to the local level. Do you know there's so many families in Madison County? Again, you know, response no. And what are we gonna do about it? Fundraise, fundraise, fundraise. This may sound kind of hokey. This is radical for my Episcopalian church. We don't do this kind of wild stuff, but the results are proof that within 4 days, we had raised $7,000 more than we had. And in the week after that, we were finding ourselves at $16,000, a place where nobody ever thought we could go. So consider, what is your mad dog moment? What can you do to generate passion, to get people angry enough about hunger to fundraise? Mad dog. Finally, sources about hunger, is we need stories from CWS. We need to communicate to our organization how many people are struggling with hunger in America and abroad. We need to talk to food cupboard directors. It's your job as team captain to go out and gather this information and make sure that everybody in your team is aware of what's going on. So those are my best practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate you sharing with us today. One thing Emily didn't mention about her congregation is that in the 3 years that she's been team captain, they went from being ranked 75th in our cream of the crop of congregations to last year being number 8 in the nation of funds raised. So her strategies and tips are clearly being very successful in her team. I heard things like that you can't over communicate, that people need to hear things multiple ways and multiple times, that encouraging walkers directly, whether that's providing them resources like a sample letter, can be helpful, or just helping them feel more confident in their fundraising, and to seek out your own mad dog moment or technique to get creative to encourage both participation and fundraising. So thank you, Emily. If you're able to, can you stop sharing your screen?
Oh,
and then we will move into questions. And
here we go. Sorry, I thought I
no,
had.
you're fine. So
Aaron, the absolute number one question is, can we please get that sample letter, or that letter? Everybody wants that letter, so can we please get that letter and figure out a way to get it out to all these people?
I can send that to Aaron.
Yep, and then we can get it out.
I'd like to help out.
I wrote down Mad Dog, Emily. Great job. I wrote down note. Yeah, with like underlined and some exclamation point. That's great.
We do have some good questions, Aaron. Would you like me to start?
Yes, please. I haven't been able to monitor, so yes.
That's okay. Given that there are so many walks that are still doing virtual, how else do you recommend getting the word out?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, Emily, give them your experience. Go ahead.
If you have a local press, and we no longer do, we did last year, get the local journalists to cover the crop walk and interview the local food cupboard director. That's a fast way to get it out of the community. Use your next door, Hamilton next door, whatever your social media is. I think it's helpful if you can get parishioners to just canvass their neighborhood. Through my sample letter, oftentimes people were nervous about answering the door because COVID has had a very discernible mark on our community. And we had a death early in March of 2020. So I understood that, but having a sample donation letter that outlines very specifically 2 reasons why you should give the crop walk, some basic information about CWS, and provide your contact information. You know, Emily, this is my address, here's my phone number, hope you can give. Call people on the phone, send emails, do whatever it takes. If you're a member of another organization such as Rotary or a fortnightly club for women in town, you know, or tennis, you know, tennis interleague, spread the word that way. It's really person to person, I think, that works best. And even in the pandemic, if you're, you know, if the rates are high in your community, you can do that. You can really go out and talk to people.
This is not a question, but I've had a few people ask, and no, Facebook does not keep any of the money. They give it all to Church World Service when you do your Facebook fundraiser.
That's good to know.
So I'll put that out there. Let's see. I just have a number of the, can we get the sample letters? Go, Emily, go. I like that one. Lots of great tips. Let's see. Oh, do you have any ideas for major initial donors, types of businesses, services? I'm not real clear on that, but that is a question. So do you have any thoughts on how to get some major business donors?
It helps to live in a small town, frankly. We're lucky enough to have the insurance giant, Bert Marshall is his name. He not only rents to a lot of people, but he runs the major insurance agency in town, and he's a member of our parish. Hasn't been attending much lately, but he was the first one that I went to hit up. Other people have very good relations with their local coffee shop. They frequent it all the time, and you know, they've asked those people. We have somebody in our parish who's a vice president of the local bank. She has certain connections with people. It's all about, you know, another parishioner knows the mayor and goes out to dinner with her all the time. So those kinds of contacts are much easier. A cold call to a business that you don't frequent very much or don't know the person is harder, but I think it's certainly possible, you know, to hit it early, you know, in the day, opening hours, and just explain the impact on the local food cupboards. A lot of people don't really realize that, and when they know that that money, part of that money is coming directly back into the community, I think that you'll find businesses taking interest. So, what do you got to go out?
We had a webinar last week, and somebody was sharing that they, one of the walkers said, I give all this money to my dentist. I've had a lot of dental work. We should ask the dentist, and the dentist gave them a good donation. So think about your contacts in that way too.
That's a magnificent idea. I'm going to follow up on that.
Dentists only get asked for toothbrushes, and I fully always say, ask your dentist. Yeah, dentists in Michigan have been great. So I do want to address that. I think there's a little, maybe some miscommunication as far as walker envelopes, and we do have donation envelopes, even though we've been virtual for quite a while. And I did put how you can get them into the chat. There are envelopes. Let's see.
And there's a variety of other materials that the local walk coordinators should be able to access and get out to the team captains. So hard copies of things are still available. Emily, like the thermometer, for instance, that's one of the pieces that we have that we could get out to all the team captains.
I think also that the Crop Walk website has resources for team captains. And I used a lot of those last year. Very, very helpful.
I did share that link too, Emily. I thought that would be a good link to share. So I did put that in the chat too, the link to the team captains area on our resources. I don't really have more questions, but I do have some other people suggesting, and I can share those so that they're in the recording.
Sure. Yeah.
This one is three weeks prior to the crop walk. The youth do skits and make presentations and worship to highlight hunger facts and info about the crop hunger walk in CWS. And then we had this one down here. Most of the people in our neighborhood do not go to church, but this person, Joe, is planning on going to, they're gonna go door to door and encourage participation. And so she wants your letter. And then this suggestion was crop walks fall, you know, a lot of them fall toward Halloween, All Saints Day. So they did, last year, they did the Oktoberfest cookout and service before the crop walk. And they let the kids do costumes, well, the adults too. And they also did a priceless yard sale in the fellowship hall on crop walk Sunday. And then they could pay whatever they wanted. And they raised $600 during the cookout.
Oh, nice.
And they're doing the priceless yard sale again this year.
That's a great idea to have a lot of small fundraisers that help feed into the larger event, that, you know, bake sales or whatever you have going on. Just donate the money to crop.
Oh, and there's somebody saying, don't forget, you know, check out who you work for and see if they will double your donation.
The matching gift. Yeah. A lot of businesses do that.
And one of the questions was, is there a risk of signing your team on? None of our online stuff is shared or sold. So there's no risk, and we've never had anybody steal anything. So yeah, or anything like that. So you guys are safe online with us.
I've had no issues over the last 3 years.
2023 is not ready yet. And please don't make us be ready for 2023 quite yet.
Although I did hear that the sites may go up in September or October, the websites. So
I'm seeing some people that are just mentioning that they're also having success as an additional fundraising source doing like local fundraisers. I'm sorry, local restaurant fundraisers, and that is a nice way of pulling the community together and then raising some extra funds for your crop hunger walk. So that is
absolutely, if you have a Culver's, Culver's are amazing to do a food night with. So if you have a Culver's by you, reach out to them. They do them for just about everything, and they're great with it. How many of us are in listen mode? I have to tell you, this was, we didn't tell Emily that this was our biggest, we didn't want to spook her. This was our biggest webinar we have crop chat we have ever had, and we had 235 in this call.
Wow.
But we had over 400 registered. So you did a good job, Emily and Kevin. And then, yeah, you know, just this other one was just a local pizza restaurant. So with that, Erin, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions. If there was a question you asked and we didn't get to it, we will respond later. We'll have the community engagement staff that is connected to your walk get back to you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Kevin and Emily, so much for sharing your tips and best practices. I feel inspired after hearing from you. For those of you listening, we do have one additional crop chat that is coming up in September. It is called Crop Around the World. It will be Wednesday, September 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is going to feature 2 of our program staff. We have Mary, who's our CWS Africa director, and Jovana, who works in our CWS Europe office. And they're going to be sharing about some of our programs in Moldova in response to the crisis in Ukraine, and then our work in Africa, particularly around some of the drought that our communities in Kenya are experiencing. So feel free, I think Heather put out the chat to that, if you'd like to register for that. We'd love to have you join us. This is a great webinar to get more stories that you can share with your team about the work of Church World Service. With that, thank you again for your time, and thank you for your leadership as the team captain. We are so grateful for you, and the funds that you help raise through your team are truly needed this year as we're seeing hunger rise. So thank you so much.
Just one last thing, everybody's asking, this is recorded and a link will be sent to you in the follow-up email that you will get probably tomorrow. And then it is also placed into our video section on our resources page. Sorry, Erin.
That's all right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Bye, everyone.